Welcome to the Education Innovators Podcast. I'm Eric Byron, and it is my privilege to host this show where we get to talk to folks from all over the world who are education thought leaders and innovators. We are going to hear inspiring stories from educators and EdTech founders and AI experts and others who are fearlessly innovating and delivering unique learning experiences. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about why I focus so much on games and games for learning. This intrigues me in a couple of ways. And of course, it also comes from my background, right? I worked at EA, Electronic Arts in Orlando, Florida, and we were making, sports simulation games. But I was also very involved in education at the time. I was both teaching part-time, but I was also advising several schools, a couple of high schools, also working with a couple of universities locally on their curriculum, got involved in a curriculum project for the statewide for digital media pathways, if you will, so matriculation from high school to college. And so we were working on statewide curriculum for digital media to basically to help get the talent pipeline going for the game industry there in the state of Florida and digital media in general, digital media careers. Anyway, so I was interested in education and I was working in the game industry. And so I started getting exposed to some of the stuff around serious games. And then I read a book. I actually have the book here somewhere. Yes, what video games have to teach us about learning and literacy from James Paul G. So, and again, I also had the experience with my own son and realizing that he played a lot of video games. He was a teenager when I was at EA, or when I started at EA anyway, and watching him play, I realized that he was really doing some pretty advanced problem solving and strategic, planning and thinking and organizing, even some leadership stuff going on there as he was playing these games. And these were even, Fortnite or, you know, Call of Duty, whatever games he was playing. These things all had, elements of them that involved him having to solve problems and be fearless in the way that he played. And I just thought this was fascinating. And then of course I started reading about, you know, SimCity and other games that hadn't really been designed with education in mind, but were being used very effectively in there. Then, of course, at some point along the way, actually, I guess after I came to Hong Kong, I got introduced to Minecraft, and I was introduced to it in the education setting, but then realized how fun it was to play. And I had played endless hours of Minecraft myself and realized that yes, it is a game. It is intended to be fun, but there's also a lot we can learn from it. And so I've really kind of embraced this. Gone, okay, I love the game industry and this whole process of designing a game and figuring out what is fun. And more and more, I've come to the conclusion that a lot of what's lacking in public education, in standard traditional education, if you will, is fun and engagement and activity. And these are things that games do really, really well. Another interesting aspect of it, I think, is one of the things I realized. I designed a couple of learning games with the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and I was able to layer into this a lot of data collection, right? What are they doing? When are they doing it? How fast are they doing it? What decisions are they making? And I also realized that this was very powerful in terms of kind of guiding the design towards the learning objectives and being able to figure out what elements, what components need to be in here, whether it's visual elements or audio, um, text, if we're adding, text in there with explanations and guiding the player along. But what design elements need to be there to get them to where we want them to go? And so games are also great in terms of of that, right? Data analytics, evidence, right? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? What decisions are they making? And so now I've come to the conclusion, though, that and I've looked at a lot of kind of learning games that aren't really games. That one of the challenges to this, first of all, making a game is not simple, right? Designing a game, making it fun is really, really hard. And so, and the game development industry, for the most part, doesn't really care about educational games. There's not enough money in it, right? A mass market entertainment game can make millions and millions or billions of dollars, and education games simply are too niche for most of the big publishers. The game developers just aren't interested in it. So what happens is you get teachers sometimes who decide they're going to make games. And this is all well and good, except that generally speaking, they end up with a quiz with some fun graphics and maybe some sound effects, right? But you're not fooling anybody. It's still a quiz. It's just a quiz. The kid knows it's a quiz, and they're not really engaged in learning. So the really best of the games are, narrative style games where you get to play and discover and explore, and it's free form. This is another major difference between most standard curriculum and where teachers really kind of get hung up is they look at it as, oh, there's lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. I have this sequence. These are the learning objectives, and they're scaffolded this way. You should learn this first, then you can learn that. And so they designed the game very serialized like that. And the best of games are not so serial, right? One of the things we know about engagement in these games is that the players like the autonomy of being able to make decisions and decide where to go next and what to do and how to do it and which weapon do I pick up or whatever, right? And so teachers have to get out of that mindset of lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and you know story tell, right? Work it around so that those components are in there, but you may not get them in that exact order. Now you may get to something that's in lesson 2 and realize I'm missing something here, and you have to go back and explore some more and find the thing that's missing and go, okay, that's what I need to sort out this problem I've got in the next level, in order to get through lesson 2 material, right? So anyway, it can be done. There are some great examples of it being done, but we really need that game designer element involved in a project in order to get us there. I really think there's 3 disciplines. There's the teacher, right? The educator who understands what we should learn, what those learning objectives are. You have an instructional designer who has that understanding of the kind of how you put things together, that scaffolding, right, that gets you from through those learning objectives in a applying learning science to the process and repetitive nature of it, and those kind of things to reinforce the learning and the objectives. And then you need the game designer, right? That person. And there may be 2 in there. There may be a writer, somebody who really narrates the story and figures out how to make it fun and creative and characters and all of that. There's another interesting point. I've seen some wonderful examples of educators coming up with characters and narratives. And they've used these as kind of storytelling techniques to get their content across. But they just need a little help with the game side of it, game mechanics, right? What makes this fun, and how do we keep them engaged, not too easy, not too hard to play the game. These are things game designers do well. So we need that discipline involved. And anyway, so that's why I love games for learning, partly because it's hard, but also because it's really, really effective in getting the student, the learner, even adults, to play the game and be engaged, and they learn without realizing they're learning, right? They just want to win. They want to level up. They want to play the game. They want to have fun. And along the way, they're picking up skills and solving problems that are actually in line with the learning objectives and the content that the teacher's trying to get across. Hey, so there you go. That is why I love learning games. And we're going to talk more about them on the Education Innovators podcast. I've got some great guests lined up. So please hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk with you again really soon. Thanks for listening. And for all those education innovators out there, thanks for doing what you're doing. You are making a difference.